I advertise talks and workshops on sound, calling it Sounds Great and significance of sound and science of sound, and these don't really fill up unless I'm at a festival or something like that, because people aren't interested in sound. They don't think it's very important. Nothing could be further from the truth. Sound is hugely important, it's massively significant, and we're going to have a look at that in this short video. I'm going to put some words on the board and then we're going to look at them and see what we get from it. Pardon the squeaking here. This pen's running out, I'll switch pens here. Okay, these are just a couple of examples. That's all I can fit on the board just now. I'll add some more shortly. Let's look at these first. I'm not sure if you can see them. These are universe, Big Bang, the word, in tune, atonement. Okay, now some of us may use these words a lot, some of us may not. What we're going to do is look at them first of all as a group and say, well, okay, you may hear the words universe in everyday speech, or Big Bang when you hear scientists talking, or the word, in the beginning was the word, from religion. We may talk about people feeling in tune, and also the term atonement. What do all these words have in common? They all are to do with sound. They all relate to sound. The universe, if we apply science of sound principles to it, you may have seen the other film, we see that this breaks up very easily here. Let's just do that, my little cutting sword. The universe, uni and verse. That means one verse, one sound, or one verse like in a song. We hear people talking about the universal symphony or the universal harmony, but the word universe itself is actually a word directly about sound. One verse. Big Bang. Science gives us this impression of this huge implicit explosion of matter, but a bang is primarily a sound first. Primarily a sound. An explosion of matter is something which would come after the actual banging. In the beginning was the word, from the Bible. Clearly a sound, the word, if we take it quite literally. In tune. This is when people are talking about feeling connected to the things around them. Folk will refer to being in tune, connected, whatever, but certainly words like harmony and in tune are very common when people are referring to when they feel connected to all the things around them. Atonement. Atonement is a word which, like responsibility that we looked at in the previous film, has been broken up in recent decades to be at one-ment. How lovely. At one-ment, the state of being at one. But that's not the only way this word can be broken up. It can also be atonement, which is actually how we say it. We say atonement. We don't say at one-ment. Atonement, the state of being a tone, or a sound. Tone being like a note, yes? Okay, so what? Right, these words are all about sound. So what? What's the big deal? The big deal is, this relates to everything we can think of. We can't think of what's outside the universe. These two both relate to creation. Science, well, religion says, in the beginning was the word. Science, though, is saying exactly the same thing. It's saying, in the beginning was the bang. All that's happening is, science isn't being quite so adventurous as religion, and it's just saying, yeah, it was a sound, but we're just going to call it a bang, which is a bit more primitive and a bit more childlike than religion, which has stuck its neck out a bit more and said, no, in the beginning it was a word. So actually, after all these schisms between religion and science, at the end of the day, in the 21st century, in the 20th century, they actually agree. And they don't, you get people, major scientists who I won't name, who are still debunking religion and all the rest of it, but they don't recognise they're actually agreeing. on some things. We'll look at that in a bit more depth in a moment though, because there are other words which are of huge significance when we come to looking at significance of sound. Okay, in tune and atonement. These are more, you know, atonement, yeah, not everybody uses this, it's more of a sort of religious or spiritual term. But in tune is certainly an everyday term. You know, you don't have to have had any experience of science or religion, and you may find yourself using the term in tune to talk about when you're feeling connected. So, still, so what? We've established it about sound. And, well, absolutely everything we can think of. We can't conceive of what's outside of the universe. We also can't conceive of what's before creation. We have no idea, we have no way of thinking about it. It's beyond our conception. This term is more to do with our limitations of expression, of that wealth of experience that we have when we are feeling connected, and all we can do is turn around to people and say, oh well, I feel in tune, or I felt in tune, I felt connected. You know, it doesn't quite cut the experience that we're actually having when we are feeling in tune, when we do feel that at-one-ment, that atonement, that state of being connected to everything around us in the universe. Science, religion, everyday people, different branches of human endeavour, sometimes never referring to each other, sometimes ignoring each other, even fighting each other. But one thing is clear, and that is that when we are reaching the limits or the boundaries of our ability to conceive, think or express ourselves, we are using terms related to sound, and we don't even know it. That is hugely significant. People from different walks of life, who may have nothing to do with each other, are reaching the limits of their capacity in this world to express their experience or their conception, and they're using sound terms, and they don't even know it. Spend some time thinking about that, because it's of vast significance. And this is where we get the importance of the science of sound from, and the fact that there is a science of sound, because if this is true, and people are reaching these boundaries and they're using these naming conventions without knowing it, then it means not only are we talking about the same thing, but there are subconscious rules that we are all applying when we are naming things. And this is why the science of sound is worth pursuing. Because if the current limitations on our ability to conceive and express ourselves take us to a boundary which relates to sound, then perhaps by examining this science of sound in more detail and looking at sound again, we can find ways to surpass those barriers and surpass those limitations and surpass those boundaries. And in my experimentations over the years, I would say that is true. Obviously for you guys this is all theoretical at the minute, but from here this is the basic premises of, first of all, is sound important? Second of all, is it worth pursuing? And third of all, what is the potential value? Yes, sound is significant, the potential value is huge, and where it can take us, who knows? It's taking us into realms unknown, basically. We're going to look at a few more words just to continue this idea of significance of sound. And I want to pick on this point of religious and scientific agreement, because I'm a bit sick of religion, I'm a bit sick of science. I don't know about you. Science is really a religion in its own right, and it's just as dogmatic and heretical as religion, to be quite frank. I'll talk about that in another time as well. But okay, Western religion says, in the beginning was the Word. Western science says, in the beginning was the Bang. Hindu philosophy, 7,000 years old, says, in the beginning was the Om. But Hindu philosophy, or the oldest philosophy we know of, goes a bit further than that. It says, not only in the beginning was the Om, which is a word, but it also says the Om is the fundamental building block of the universe. Western science has reached a conclusion on that as well. Now, fair enough, Christianity hasn't gone that far, but we're going to tie up in the beginning with the was the word with that at another point. However, Western science says the fundamental building block of the universe is the atom. We're going to apply the science of sound to this, and what we get is, in the beginning, the fundamental building block of the universe is the atom. This, folks, clearly in black and white in English says or implies at the state of Om. At Om. So actually these little things that none of us have ever seen, these little ohms, these little atoms, which science is very, very convinced is the fundamental building block of the universe, is in complete and total agreement with Hindu philosophy, 7,000 years old. And yet all it does is dismiss it. In terms of the significance of the science of sound, it's astounding because Om is a Sanskrit word. It's not even English. The interesting thing is, and this is where we look at language and sound later on at a bit more advanced level, because of the symbol and shape that we use for Om in the West is different from the symbol and shape they use in the East, but their sound is the same, but that's a different matter. The key to this is that this helps prove what I was saying earlier about us all using subconscious rules when we are naming things. This is absolutely almost irrefutable proof of that fact. That if Hindu yogis 7,000 years ago and beyond and before and since are all saying when we tune in and feel in tune with things, we establish that Om is the fundamental building block of the universe, and Western science that doesn't give a monkey's about sound is approaching it from a completely different point of view, is coming up with the same conclusion and saying when we look at this and perceive it with our intellect, what we come up with is that these things are all at Om. Then it proves the science of sound. It proves that we are using the same naming conventions. And it also proves that it doesn't matter what language you speak. Hugely significant stuff. To give you a bit more of an idea of the hidden secrets of sound, we use words which to do with, because obviously that means we are comprised of these little ohms, yeah? This is where the Om is such a powerful mantra. We'll look at that as to the difference between mantra and everyday words in another video I'll do on horizontal and vertical sound, which is quite significant. There are two types of sound, horizontal and vertical, and they have different purposes. But let's put some more words on the board. Organs. Yeah? Organs are a musical instrument for playing sound. What do we call the parts inside my body? My kidneys, my liver, my heart, my lungs. Are they not also organs? Organs, yeah? What do we call it when we rot away? We call it decomposing, yeah? Decompose. Also to do with sound. Uncomposing a sound. I can't think of any more off the top of my head at the moment, but I assure you there are absolutely lots of these, and we cover them in any of my sound workshops. So obviously if I gave you everything here, then there'd be no reason to come along, would there? But there's certainly enough here to give you a sense of the significance of the sound and the fact that there are things going on here that, you know, we gloss over. You know, we think we know all, we think we're so smart with our everyday use of words, but we don't even look at what we're saying. We don't even look at the way we're naming things. There is huge significance in this. Thank you.